love to see him do that sort of thing into the short lane. Game number 1 to Space Station. Game number 2 on the docket. Trifecta as the loser will have the selection, and they'll go for first.
And yet again, Space Station Gaming with the second pick, allowing Aquarius to get the counter matchup if he really wants to, being able to really counter whatever Trifecta is about to throw at them.
Anhur still banned out here, as is the Pele. Space Station Gaming doesn't want to play against the new assassin. She's been very, very powerful, as she's able to rotate around the map pretty much faster than anybody else. So no Pele here today. Venenu's going to get the Morrigan stripped away, and Freya just a little bit too powerful as well. Same bans from game number 1. Trifecta last time around picked Athena in this position, and this time around they're going to go for the Ratatoskr.
Okay. Well, it's surprising considering that Ratatoskr was banned in the secondary phase, trying to take that options away from Annister, but Baron Samedi is still available. Jeff Hindler was playing it very well in the last game. I think that the dual lane should be fine considering Chernobog is still available. That wouldn't surprise me if that's the next selection.
It's going to be the Athena, so you got half of it right, because she's global. So the Global Guardian, not the Global Hunter, mixed with Baron Samedi, so this looks like that's going to be an Aquarius Athena, or maybe, I think it's going to be Aquarius Athena
Could
over
be
the
either
Baron.
way. Could be either way, depending on what the last pick is for Trifecta. That's when you decide.
That's what I was going to ask, is if the solo laner really has control here. So SSG have 2 picks that can go in either position, and Ambiguous they will stay. Ram, he's definitely playing Hunter, and Ganesh, he's definitely playing support. So a little bit less ambiguity on the side of Trifecta. Theoretically, Ganesh solo.
No.
Never?
No.
Never?
No.
But you can clear the wave with your ultimate.
No. Tom, no.
Your face right
Chernobog,
there.
6th pick so far in the draft. A little surprising that the Ram was selected before the Chernobog. Really goes to show that Trifecta are thinking about the laning phase. That's why they locked in Ganesh with the Ram. You throw out the ball, just amplify the Ram damage. Expect a lot of red/purple buff invades out of Trifecta.
So Athena and Chernobog, Space Station have all the ability to rotate throughout the map in the world. This alone is really scary. So looking at the bans, kind of the same scenario from Trifecta and Space Station, nothing speaking directly to the situation. So Toli, how do you deal with 2 globals here? I know we have Ratatoskr, the half global, but well, what's Trifecta looking at to control these 2 picks?
I think it's about forcing the team fight in the global situation so you don't have to worry about it across the map. If we're going to see Sanford Soccer engage on the Ratatoskr in the dual lane, onto the Athena, while Defender of Olympus is going to be used to disengage instead of to mitigate, because you can't Defender of Olympus on top of yourself. That would be OP.
That would be a little bit fun there. Actually, if you Defender of Olympus somebody else and they die while you're channeling it, then you land down.
Yeah, that's true.
So
but you're not getting the mitigation because you're mitigating whoever you target.
You do get the damage, though.
That's true.
Raijin, Hercules, selections here for Trifecta. 2 of my favorite gods, actually. I like the control and the damage. Both of them bring kind of a hybrid of both. And the easy Nami for Space Station Gaming, taking a page out of Cyclone Spin's book. The Splice Hunter has been playing a lot of his Nami, and so we're going to see Barracuda try his hand at the Undead Hunter.
I think Snoopy from CLG also likes the
Yes,
Tsunami
yes,
a little
yes,
bit.
yes.
So a lot of these hunters share some personalities when it comes to these unorthodox picks. Tsunami very good at lane clear. Expect to see Chernobog in the mid for Venenu and Barracuda alongside probably Baron, I would say, in the dual lane.
Well, Trifecta trying to stretch this one out to a 3rd game. Space Station Gaming trying to close it out here. Hindu, Taco, take us away.
Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, this is going to be definitely an interesting one. That pick and ban phase. I love the fact, Taco, that Trifecta looked for the Ratatoskr for Sam in the jungle, but they gave away Athena and the Baron for doing so. And that's the same comp that they got hold of last time. Then the Ganesha pick, and you got a Mercury in response. Like, Space Station Gaming feel pretty strong based off the picks and bans.
Feels like the secondary position definitely favored Space Station here, and I understand Trifecta's mindset in wanting to prioritize a pick for Sam, maybe something he can be a little bit more aggressive on early on, but to give up the Baron and the Athena is a bit of a risky move here. Speaking of which, Zapman taking up a little bit more damage than what he was originally intending. Now Barracuda and Jeff Hindler, they won't have any problems whatsoever with this lane clear.
Both teams have sprint, but it's just basic sprint, not upgraded version, so the chase is a little bit more limited. It was Neilmar that popped his sprint a second earlier, so Jeff and Barra will stay in the lane and pressure it once more. Trifecta instead going to retreat to their own jungle, take away the red buff. Purple could be looked at, but I think it may be a one-on-one fight here, but I think Jeff and Barry might be closer to level 2 if they get those babies.
They only need like 2 creeps, I want to say. Even Zetman and Nilmaw, they're aware of everything that's happening right now, but they're just trying to bide their time, just sitting and waiting, collecting the experience.
Yeah, through the wall. They're actually getting dual lane experience by doing that. But look at this. Andy went for a gank on Scary D at level 2. In the end, him and Aquarius ended up coming up a little bit more worse for wear than they'd like to. Scary D still feeling confident enough to step up to the wave.
Scary D, though, can't be too far out of himself on this one, because if he does, then he'll end up with that special delivery right inside the T1 tower. Same could be said for Andy as well, though. I think Scary D was hoping that he'd be able to get off on Earthbreaker into the driving strike. Just not going to be possible this time around.
So look at that. Neilmar and Zetman with a slight lead over Space Station Gaming here in the dual lane, just because they managed to get the red, the purple, and the experience from the lane that they may have lost because of soaking it through the wall. Got themselves in pretty good standing, entering the 2-minute mark in the laning phase, where you start to see the bonus experience, which we don't talk about much, coming into play, where after a certain time in the game, the lowest level on a team gets more experience for sharing. Helps the support stay a little bit more meta, a little bit more in the face, and one of the reasons you see these fights taking a little bit longer is because these Guardians, these support players, have a little bit more survivability and a little bit more control.
Speaking of which, Jeff still sitting at full health here, though, but I am a bit surprised that Barra and Jeff didn't bother trying to contest Trifecta's duo a little bit harder on their purple buff. You know that Zap and Nilmaw are trying not to miss out on the wave. Probably could have gotten off a little bit better free poke, but probably just too concerned that Sam would be rotating over if Andy's on the opposite side of the map.
And I think that's exactly where it was. Andy was ganking the solo lane at the time, so if you know your jungler's not going to be around anyway, if there shows up, you're in trouble. Talk about being in trouble. Scary D slams Aquarius into a wall, but Sam Fasaka was looking at the blue buff and Andinster, but now Sam may have stuck around too long. He's going to get taunted, and he quite a bit of poke from Aquarius there on that solo lane Athena that we start to see a little bit more of in the Pro League. Less of the Sobex, more of the Athenas. It's like one Guardian has to always be solo these days.
And with Athena feels a little bit better, though, I would say, because into the Hercules, she can still interrupt some of his lane clear, at least temporarily with the taunt off the driving strike. Not only that, but I think the fact that she can absorb an auto attack or two is going to be really important as this match progresses, because Aquarius was already harassing Zetman and Paul nonstop last game. Now that he has Athena, I can imagine it's going to be a very similar vibe to that of what he did on the Kuzenbo.
It is really funny when you talk about Athena like that, because a lot of people know that the dash will give you block stacks to prevent some of those basic attacks coming through. Can be impactful against some of the assassins that you're going to be up against, but also against hunters. And Zap's the only one on the hunt at this game, though. They've not got dual hunters for Trifecta this time round. Space Station Gaming, however, they've gone back to the same method of the double hunter strat with Chernobog in the mid lane.
I feel like Paul is way more vulnerable this time around, though, on the Raijin in comparison to the Euler. Not having a CC Moon ult basically made him a walking free kill for Andy the second that he saw him in bow stance, because it takes too long to transition over, and competitive levels of play you get punished. But Raijin's kind of the same way, because in the Taiko drums, you're not moving very fast, if at all, and Space Station worked best when being able to just pinpoint.
Veneno did so much damage to Sam, and Paul forced to ult defensively to try and help out his teammate. He'll get away as well. Beautiful play, actually, from Trifecta to survive that gank attempt, where they just stepped up to the wave and just didn't respect Veneno's damage.
For a second there, I thought Veneno was going to be able to catch out Paul with the refresh of his cooldowns. One Crystallized Curse into a Vicious Barrage. Might have been the end of that Raijin there, but Paul was able to TP away.
Well, you did talk about Raijin a little bit of like, he's going to be a little bit awkward in these team fights. The way I look at it, though, is if you look at Space Station Gaming's composition, if Paul jumps over a wall using his teleport, no one can really chase him down. There's no real leaps or get over walls abilities on Space Station Gaming outside of his army.
Well, there's Veneno too. Probably one of the best for chasing him down. Speaking of which, Scary D right now, Sanford Soccer actually dashing straight into the tower.
Oh, one hit was all it needed, and Aquarius will get it off the basic attack, and insta calculated to stay alive. Sanford Soccer falls in the jungle. Aquarius credited with the first blood at just over 5 minutes.
Too deep, too soon. There was no way Sam survives. No matter what, it's going to be a trade out. He was probably just banking everything onto getting the first blood bounty at the very least, and Aquarius finishing off the kill. Instead, Aquarius now with a little bit of an advantage here, I would say, over Scary D because of picking up that kill. And Ratatoskr is well known for his early game pressure because you can just buy boots right away. Or the Acorn. You finish your Acorn in the jungle, you don't necessarily have to back right away.
Say, you're going to have chat going mental right now saying, wait, you can buy boots on, right? You can't
Well,
do that.
technically he does have 4 paws.
I mean, it's better than boots. Technically, it's an Acorn. It's actually more movement speed than
Could you
boots.
imagine if Ratatoska could like throw his Acorn at people?
He does. He's 3. He
No,
throws
I
3
mean
of
like
them.
after, like kind of like the Scordia.
So you throw your boots away? Why would you want to throw your boots
No,
away?
no, no, no. I'm saying like if he could. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
It's not gonna work.
I'm like, is this another Steve Harvey thing we're going on
No,
to here,
it's
Taco?
it sounded good in my mind. All right, I still firmly believe in it.
You just like throwing acorns, is that what you're trying to tell me?
I think it'd be hilarious.
It could be quite interesting, that's for sure. We have bananas being thrown around right now by Paul, so it wouldn't surprise me to see that happen eventually. Neilmar gonna engage with his ultimate here, looking towards zoning away Space Station Gaming around the left, and Harpy's ultimate ends up being wasted there. No follow-up available, and Trifecta now are without that ultimate for a few moments.
It's all right. I understand how Neil feels. He saw that going differently in his head,
Just like the Acorn thing, right?
just like the Acorn
Just
thing.
like the Acorn thing. Neilmar, though, level 7, a little bit further ahead than Jeff at the moment. Experience-wise, there is a lead for Trifecta at the moment, looking at the standings with how this experience has been going. You can actually just see, I feel like a hair, at least in the major roles anyway, the Trifecta are in a small advantage, but very evenly balanced game. I'm just scared of the Gold Fury fights going as long as last time.
If these Gold Fury fights go as long as last time or longer, Hindu, we might be here for a while, but right now it seems as though Trifecta are just perfectly content to kind of match the same pace that Space Station has dictated in a sense. They sort of forced Trifecta to not be as aggressive as I think they were originally intending to with that one pick onto Sam.
And talking about this, as the longer this game goes as well, think about it, Space Station Gaming have 3 auto-attack base, well, physical damage carries in this game, because Mercury will adapt into one as this game goes on, and he's working towards crit as well, which is an important factor to make into account, because if he gets his fists attached to Zapman, the crit damage could be enough to end the Hunter's life, and he's looking for a potential lane gank now with that Sonic Boom, but not been noticed just yet. Instead, he's going to take the purple buff. A bit of a slow pace here, but I think this works out for Space Station.
It does. It certainly favors Space Station right now because there is Zetman with the Rom, who is also a hyper carry in the late game, but when compared to Izanami, Chernobog, Mercury, good luck surviving the burst out of those 3 alone. And we haven't even factored in Jeff Hinla and Aquarius with the control, because last time, Space Station were really only struggling due to their lack of crowd control, and now that they've got a lot of it thanks to the Athena Baron.
Ooh, sneaky, sneaky, scary D. A trap has been set by Trifecta. But there is Veneno and Aquarius to join the fray too. Sonic Boom ripped through from Andinster to do a bit of damage. And the dual lane of Space Station turn up too. We got a massive brawl in the mid lane at 9 minutes in. And Neilmar and Sam are still alive. But Veneno claims the life of Neilmar. Andy claims the life of Sam for Sock. And Veneno gets a double kill with a double dash onto Zapman. And Space Station Gaming turn their attention to the Gold Fury.
They don't even need that mid T1 tower. They'd rather have the Gold Fury, or better yet, Scary D or Paul, whichever one decides to go in first. Look at Veneno wrapping around the backside, but it's not even necessary. Special delivery right into the center of everybody.
Oh, Scary D got one, though. The rest of the team got split. Looking at Paul. Veneno will go into a killing spree. Technically a delayed triple kill in the grand scheme of the engagement. Baits on baits on baits, and a Gold Fury for Space Station Gaming. I thought for a second, Taco, Trifecta were about to rout Andinster and Veneno in the jungle, but it wasn't to be.
They had no idea that Veneno was even intending to wrap around in the first place. Paul was so focused on looking to follow up with Scary D after he committed with the driving strike that he just had no time to react when Veneno came around the backside.
10 minutes in, then 6-1 off that one engagement. If you remember, a few moments ago, it was an even game at 10 minutes in. Well, it's a 2,500 gold lead now. Split amongst the team. Veneno credited with most of that gold, I'd expect, after picking himself up 3 kills off the engagement. What a great time for Space Station Gaming to go aggressive, though, and take that fight. They had the fully stacked Transcendence on Veneno, and the duo lane of Jeff and Baron managed to rotate all the way over at the right time to make an impact in that fight, too.
It just feels like that escalated so quickly
It did.
for Space Station's favor. Speaking of which, Andy now, with the full rage, going to spot out that Excavate just a little bit too soon there from Scary D, and rather unfortunate as well, because now he won't have that for pressuring out Aquarius inside of the lane, and we aren't even out of the laning phase, by the way. They still have plenty of time to go, spending and working on their secondary relics, getting a little bit more farm and gold, except now Space Station just have a clear lead over Trifecta.
Here's a question for you. When technically does the laning phase end? There's not an official time, is there? Is it when the first tower in the game falls?
There is no such thing as really an official time, but there are a lot of many factors that go into when the laning phase is over. I think removal of towers is usually a good indicator that the laning phase is over, just because that's when the other member, whoever took the tower, they're going to start rotating, which means that you can either respond with rotations, essentially meaning the end of the laning phase, or you can just sit back and split push while your team tries to engage 4v5. And normally that's where the complications arise for a lot of teams, in that they're not necessarily certain or confident which engagements are actually safe to take.
Barracuda there just dropped a ward down, got spotted out by Neilmar and pinged out where that ward was placed too. Just near the purple buff where Zap and Neilmar are right now, but at the moment 4-man grouping for the red. So it shows you they're trying to get as much experience as they can. There's a big difference in experience in the mid lane though. Paul level 10, Venenu level 12. The biggest difference between that is the fact that one's got 2 relics and one's only got 1. But right hand side, Scary D being pressured here.
No problem, no Scary D, going to be able to heal it all right back up with that mitigate wound. Same can't be said though for the blue buff. That is indefinitely going to fall for Aquarius. Nice invade there as well from Space Station. They know without the Gold Fury being up and running, they have freedom all the time in the world as well to choose to aggress wherever.
Pyromancer was looked at for a second by Annenster yet again, but there's a couple of wards placed down there. Not enough confidence in the rotational ability out of Trifecta, especially with Ratatoska in the jungle here. I think the main thing for Trifecta to look at doing now at this 30-minute mark is mainly get to the second relics. Get the farm going a little bit more so, just so they can maintain this fight. And the ward coverage from them at the moment, though, is amazing.
Take a look at the support experience gap, though. That's where the only real difference is on this match. Neil is actually about a level and a half, 2 levels up on Jeff. Jeff playing, I think, a little bit more team-based and trying not to split farm as often.
Ye old Season 1 supports that will give everything away to get the team a lead. And honestly, that can help out sometimes just to be able to do it. It hurts you individually, but it does help out the team sometimes to not have to split it all the time with the support player. And to be fair, once the laning phase ends, supports can catch up relatively quick if they get a window to do so. 1 or 2 waves and you find 1 or 2 levels.
Yeah, good luck clearing those 1 or 2 waves as a support, unless you're like Amir.
All right, just pick on the support some more. Yeah, even, to be fair, even the Baron these days struggles in that sort of clear department, especially if he's going tanky. You do need that damage to get the damage out on the camps.
I like it, though, and Jeff, he's a support player. He's been around the block for quite some time now. He is more than familiar with just about every variation of support meta you can imagine, so I'm confident that he knows exactly what he's doing in terms of giving up a little bit if it means giving his team more of an edge.
Last 4 minutes has been kind of slow all of a sudden. Space Station Gaming found their big window just before that and got themselves a Gold Fury. And now the Gold Fury is about to spawn again, however. The Space Station take down the purple buff on the left-hand side here. Attention will turn in this direction, out to the left-hand side of the map once more. Hopefully, this time round, Trifecta can get a better engagement off and not be picked apart beforehand.
Oh yeah, Examan's just going to absorb the entirety of that 2 there from Barracuda, and now he'll be forced to roll away. Still determined to try and save his tower. He's already at 1 HP. Those crits from Andy were just huge.
But where's the rest of Trifecta at the moment? No one is even here. Zap's still alone for so long. Finally, Sam Pisocca gets involved, but he can't find a target. End of the day, it's wasted as the Living Nightmare, sorry, Life of the Party used to try and pull him in. Just out of range, but Zap and the Tier 1 tower fall down at the worst possible moment. The Gold Fury's up, and the whole of Space Station Gaming are going to be here to take it.
I like the determination, though, from Jeff to not just drop the Life of the Party once he realizes it's out of range. He's still holding on to it just in case the Taunt brings him back in. Speaking of which, Taunt's going to bring Sam back in unexpectedly, and the dash is going to finish him off there as Aquarius adds yet another one to the kill count there for Space Station.
Yeah, the mobility from Space Station Gaming is actually starting to make an impact now. You've seen the Mercury rotate over to the duo lane. They're looking for a tier 2, getting the teleport out of Scary D, and Andy knows this is going on. I think he was trying to cancel it at the last second there, but it didn't work out well, because Scary D gets to the fight. The tier 2 tower's already dead. The boulder out will only hit onto Jeff Hindler, and Venenu still healthy enough, but there's the thorns, there's the knock-up, there's the driving strike, and there's the kill credited to Paul.
Not only that, but Zapman has made his way back over here onto the left-hand side. Gold Fury is up. Sam's about to respawn also. Anderson's on the opposite side of the map. This could end up being Trifecta's winning ticket back into this one.
I don't know, though, Taco. They lose, what, tier 1, tier 2, and a tier 1 on the right-hand side for this Gold Fury. Grand scheme of things, I mean, if anything, I'd say the edge is still Space Station Gaming, because Gold Fury's not that big of a deal. You can just see the bump up now. Still 4,500 gold in the lead for Space Station. Didn't really hurt them.
But the Gold Fury is going to give Trifecta a sudden burst of gold that they were definitely in dire need of here. And speaking of which, Andy not even going to let Sam farm out his own jungle. He'll be taking down that blue buff just for good measure. I doubt Aquarius will even be able to pick it up, but it doesn't matter. Andy just wants the farm. It means that Sam's going to continue to have to make up for it elsewhere. And that usually results in Sam having to leech from lanes that he normally wouldn't want to be in.
Andy going forward with the Hasek Katana as well this game. So he's going to be able to stick to targets a little bit easier, alongside having that speed buff around his waist too. So when you're critting and then still moving quicker, it's going to be an awkward task for some of these people to escape the clutches of this Mercury. Scary D at level 16 though. Only got 3 items online so far, and look at the build that you've got from Space Station Gaming's Aquarius here. He's approaching his final item in the build. Obviously, he's got to sell his blessing at the start, but the cost of Scary D's items is where it's starting to hurt now. He has completed the Nemean line, which I think is a very important factor against, well, these triple physical attackers that are going to hurt themselves in punching him.
And now he's starting off into what'll most likely end up being the Midgardian male, I'd imagine. Double hunter composition. 2 hunters, by the way, with attack speed steroids in their kits, essentially. And so you kind of need a lot of anti-attack DPS as possible.
I can't believe that all the while we've just been talking about things going on with the builds and things, and Barracuda's just silently, slowly taking away the Pyromancer. Trifecta not in a position to contest it, so now a bit more mobility for Space Station leaving the base, and one less global objective for Trifecta to contest.
Yama could be in a little bit of trouble there. Looks like T1 Tower and mid seems to be the next focus here for Space Station. They're all poised up in this mid lane as if they want to fight, or at least force the fight. They know Trifecta can't comfortably try to look at this engagement and try to actually get involved with it right away.
Andy gonna dash away from Sanfasaka, but Sanfasaka gonna ult in the mid lane. Meanwhile, Neilmar has been left alone under that tier 1 tower as everyone was doing the red buff to be focused down and picked apart. Sonic Boom to the back line, gets the beads out of Zapman, who turns his attention to Andy and takes him out of the fight. Paul has just used his ultimate though. Aegis from Andy, so he's just causing problems to allow Venenu to pick up the pieces and bring down Paul.
It's just a threat, that's all that Andy wanted to do. Speaking of which, look at that burst steal sustained from Jeff. Barra will finally end up falling there thanks to the collective efforts of Sanfasaka and Zapman, but Scary D with a nice driving strike onto 2. Aquarius, Jeff Finland now looking to peel for Andy. Andy gonna heal yet again from the sustain out of the Baron.
Hercules! Hercules! He's causing problems yet again. These Earthbreakers and driving strikes is where he's managing to make his money so far in this game. If he can find one more, it could be more problems for the team. But they've only got Sanfasaka and Zapman at half health here, and that's where the awkwardness could begin. Taunt from Aquarius hits Scary D, but Scary D heals himself back up as Sanfasaka does find some important experience there, stripping the red buff away from Space Station.
But look at Jeff.
They're hanging
Jeff
around,
trying to harass Scary D because they knew that Venenu would have that ultimate. He's going to come flying back in, crystallized curses, vicious barrage, but the combo isn't there.
Trifecta push forward in the mid lane, still trying to take fights as Space Station Gaming respawning, resustaining. Neilmar's back in the fight. Sanfasaka finds Andy, but at the same time, Venenu under pressure. But the beads, the Aegis, the shell, the burst damage, the sustain coming through for Space Station, and picking apart Scary D, who's now not available.
They've got to be careful, though. Space Station should learn to respect a little bit of their boundaries now as we're approaching that mid-game stride here for Trifecta. Paul was just sitting inside of that red buff, not only to pick it up for himself, but had Space Station continued pushing into Trifecta, I think Paul could have made some serious damage happen with that Percussive Storm and the Taiko drums.
Well, that whole fight, though, started around the tier 1 tower being sieged by Space Station Gaming. Trifecta lose the tower, but in all honesty, they hold the tier 2. They managed to push Space Station out of the base, out of their half of the map. But I felt like they just chased too far into the enemy jungle and hung around too much. Scary D, yeah, he's tanky, but he can still be killed. And it was shown in that engagement for hanging around so long. With the fact there's an Athena and a Chernobog on the enemy team, you've got to be respectful of those respawns and those ultimates.
Growing pains for Trifecta, I feel, in that regard. That's just a little bit of a lack of experience there for Sam especially, who was also kind of spearheading that charge, it felt like, deep into their jungle.
Golf Fury's about to spawn again. Space Station Gaming have the Oracle advantage, so they've got vision around the area. But Trifecta aren't giving this up yet. And Space Station haven't turned their attention to the Fire Giant just yet. The dance of the Golf Fury begins again. It's the 20-minute mark. I don't think it will last as long as the last couple of ones in game 1 because the burst damage is a completely different story this game.
I don't trust your caster's curse on this, Hindu. Take it back.
I'm trying.
Take it back right now.
No, I know. I have faith. Aquarius trying to get, well, Scary D trying to get the Magi's cloak off of Aquarius is what I was going to say there. Because of the CC issues that Trifecta may have in this game, it's nice to have these Magi's cloaks, especially on your front line, to be able to do things like this. Burst on Scary D, knocks him to half health, but he should be able to resustain back towards a fuller hammer, and he'll be okay. But it does give Space Station Gaming the advantage at this point. Sampasaka hanging out towards the mid lane, will be looking to initiate if his team requires it. The dance begins.
Space Station going to be the first ones to start toying with it, but it's going to be Scary D who ends up getting pulled in first. Scary D has just been popped like a balloon there. You wouldn't even imagine that he was a Hercules.
Sam does get into the fight, but Veneno got out and goes back in, looking towards Paul, who's bursted. The Aegis bought him a moment, but not long enough. He's out of the fight for now, still alive. Zapman to the sky, and Veneno does bring him down, but when he lands, he's got a swarm of red waiting for him.
Zapman's still on the run. He knows that it's to no avail. However, Barracuda going to take him down for the double kill with no problem whatsoever. And he just needs the major look. And Sam for soccer, he's just going to be looking at the fountain now.
And the Golf Fury falls for Space Station 2. 4 members die on Trifecta. Just Veneno in response. On the death charts as Pyro spawns, gold goes down, Fire Giant's looming. Space Station Gaming are now up around 8,000 gold.
And I don't want to direct all the blame onto Scary D there because I'm fairly certain that the only reason he's that far up to begin with is because he assumes he's tanky enough to deal with it, and his team is relying on him to be the front-facing member for them. They don't have the same composition as last time between the Fafnir and the Athena. Now it's a Ganesh and a Hercules. That's your driving force there. And there's only so much Scary D can do in the face of Hunter with shred capabilities like Veneno and Barra.
And you talk about shred, if you look at the build that Scary D's got here, he's got a hell of a lot of physical defense, but not as much health as he may like in this build too, and that is actually causing him a bit of a problem. Because the way the mitigate wounds works on Hercules as well is you've got to pop it and then take the damage to heal back. But if you don't manage to get the heal off at the end of it because you bursted down too low and dead, well, the ability kind of goes to the wayside a little bit more so.
He's also just flat out not getting the time that he needs to let the regen happen.
Exactly.
He was bursted down in, what, 5 seconds or less? And I think it said 4 seconds right there was the time threshold. So the fact that Space Station are bringing him down so quickly, all without anti-heal, by the way, this is not even a necessity just yet for Space Station.
But the good news is Trifecta's not out of this game now. Scary D and the team can realize that they're going to go aggressive on Scary. He's just going to step up. Spirit Robe could be a pretty good item actually for him, just to prevent some of that CC chain and actually reduce the damage. But look at this, free Fire Giant. I'm really surprised that just went that way so quick, uncontested. Trifecta not in position. I guess Scary D either got caught back in there or it was just the best window. The Space Station realized they had more coverage, and Trifecta now going to be licking their wounds at tier 2s against a full Space Station Gaming roster with Fire Giant.
The other problem, too, for Trifecta is even if they had been in the area, I don't think that their tanks alone would have been enough to persuade Space Station to drop that Fire Giant. They just have too much burst on objective play with their carries.
Just kind of looking at each other right now. Scary D doesn't want to go aggressive because obviously Aquarius is there and the damage dealers. And nobody on Trifecta wants to get aggressive either. The telegraph signal that I've seen in a couple of these fights is Neilmar's ultimate. When that ultimate's been dropped, that has been go for both teams most of the time. So keep an eye on Neilmar using that in these engagements. At the moment, though, Trifecta just seem to be understandably having to accept that they're losing all their towers.
I think the other problem, too, is that Neil honestly has not been able to do much of anything this game. Space Station, the second that they see this Ganesh, they just jump right on top of him because outside of the Dharmic Pillars, what more is a Ganesh really meant to do into an auto-attack based composition?
I'm just not sure, like, with the Ganesh pick as well. It was third pick in the picks and ban section. You didn't have to pick the support there. It was Athena Baron locked in, and you get the Ganesh. We've not seen too much of it because, like, laning phase is a little bit lackluster in terms of, well, fighting potential, I guess is the best way of putting it. But as the game goes on, like you said, double hunters, it could struggle a little bit.
That is kind of where things fell apart, though, for Trifecta. I do feel as though that was a slight oversight in the drafting phase to take the Ganesh so early on. I think that the reasoning behind it at first was so that they could prioritize their 4th and 5th picks to maybe try and counteract whatever Space Station picked up in that 4th pick position. It's just that a Ganesh is never really going to be prioritized as a 3rd or 4th ban. And on top of that, Space Station have been toying around with this double ADC nonsense anyways for a while now. So I'm just surprised that they would want the Ganesh to begin with.
I understand it into the Athena, though, because when Athena dashes in, you can immediately silence her, stop her from getting the taunt off. But if it's a solo lane Athena, well, that's a bit of a different story then, where she's going to be able to get a few more items than usual, a bit of a different build, not more focused on support, but individual survivability. Even though this game, he's got the Witchblade on hand to make sure that he can debuff the enemy and also, well, cause some problems for the team.
I wouldn't be surprised if Scary D even started trying to build into a Witchblade or something. Sam's already got one, but I don't think that's enough for just the Ratatoskr alone. They're missing out on so much damage, all of that responsibility falling onto the shoulders of Paul and Zapman, but the problem is Space Station are just so quick about taking down one or the other that they don't really give Trifecta any time.
Taunt from Aquarius, hits onto Scary D, the burst is good, the burst is killable! They take down Scary D already as the silence comes through and hitting Neilmar, but Sanfrecocker's dunk is beautiful, and it sets up the snipes for Zapman, and Paul gets a double. Wasted engagement from Space Station Gaming. Trifecta's defense, beautiful there.
It looked like that was going to go an entirely different direction for a second there, because Scary D just pops. He is gone and out of there before you even realize that he was there to begin with.
Wait a second, why is Space Station Gaming still here? There's only 3 members, it's just the carries dancing in the jungle. I guess they were looking for a pick there at the moment. I thought it was a little bit risky to go towards the Phoenix again. Instead, they're going to have to fall back to the Gold Fury. But Sanfrecoccer and Paul in that engagement for me, like, they big ultimates from both of them. Sam hitting 3 targets. That Ratatoskr made a big difference.
Zap also, I think, with the ROM snipes. The Astral Barrage is what put Aquarius into that killing range anyway. And I think that had their carries not managed to sync up as well as they did, that might have been a lot worse for Trifecta, possibly even game ending there.
Not a confident look for Trifecta, though, after the fight. They were still worried about Andy, Veneno, and Barracuda still being alive. So they don't go into the jungle to try and push out the waves as much. They could have looked for a Gold Fury themselves, but instead, Space Station Gaming managed to pick it up as well to extend their gold a little bit more so. Now that gold is important to Trifecta, not so much for Space Station. Although, power potions and wards definitely win games.
Slow and steady wins the race also. Trifecta are trying to treat this as a match where they've got to wait for Space Station to slip up. If they try to take up any jungle engagements, I don't see Trifecta coming out on top inside of all the chaos that can happen within these jungle corridors and such. Their best bet is playing defense off of those Phoenixes like what we just witnessed.
Oh,
and
yeah.
If they can continue to wipe Space Station, even just finding 1 or 2 picks over time, the death respawn timers are eventually going to get up high enough to where Trifecta will start to feel a little bit more comfortable with pushing down the lanes, looking for the towers after they find a couple of kills.
This is, I'd say 2 more fights. 2 more fights for Trifecta at the Phoenix line. If they win those both, they could actually win the game off of this one, though, is going to be critical at this moment. Space Station will hopefully not want to make the same mistake again, but Trifecta, I will be honest, like, the defense is solid. That's where the strength is going to be, and they're going to play through that now because they need to. The gold, the difference in itemization is the real difference between the two, bar and everything else. So just holding on for that gold is important.
The other thing, too, is that by playing underneath their Phoenixes, Trifecta are making it practically impossible for Andenster to find a good Sonic Boom ultimate. I think another problem that they had all throughout the first 25 minutes of this game was trying to figure out a way to position themselves so that their carries could do damage, but also not get hit by Andy's Sonic Boom. And Andy has been pretty on point with those so far.
I love this. Look at this. Jeff, Andy, and Barrett all on the left, and the two people with globals chilling on the right-hand side. What happens in a team fight? Well, Aquarius and Veneno could just jump to the left-hand side, and now Trifecta go, well, we can't defend as a whole 5. It's going to require a split of the difference. So they're sending Hercules to the right on his own. Sam was forced to ult there defensively to give him the window to get back to the left to defend.
Massive ult pull, though, from Andenster just by threatening the Phoenix, dancing around it with the Hasten Katana. Andy now charging up that Sonic Boom, but he's looking for Scary D.
He didn't find the Sonic Boom there by the looks of it. Now Scary D has to use the Thorns as the Phoenix does fall on the right. Left-hand side, Zatman's left on his own to defend as Neilmar trying to come in too to stop Jeff and Barra, but the damage has been done. The window has been opened. With that Phoenix down on the right-hand side, it makes it a lot easier for Space Station to continue sieging.
Paul, though, going up into that Taiko Drums right away, hoping to catch up Barracuda. He will manage to force the Aegis for now. Percussive Storm, though, not bringing up the damage numbers that he was hoping for onto Jeff. That's the support right there, Paul. And, well, Neilmal, Zap, Paul still giving chase into this trio.
Yeah, but look at the rotation from Space Station towards this fight as well. Space Station may be able to bait this into an awkward spot. Neilmal's too far forward now, trying to run away, but got a Magi's Cloak. Meanwhile, Aquarius doesn't care about him. He's going to get the beads out of Zapman. Venenu brings down Ganesh as Scary D finally turns up to this engagement, but he's got a whole team running him down.
Scary D with the great Earth Shaker, but because it only landed onto Jeff Hinla, there's no reason for him to follow it up. Zapman has no bees, but Aquarius will get stunned out from a nice Acorn Blast by Sam. That's going to keep his Hunter alive for the moment, but that won't be the same case for the left side Phoenix.
No, not with all those physical damage either. Sam Fasaka gets in on Jeff with the ult, but Aquarius does good work to get Barracuda to bring down Scary D. 18-9. All 3 Phoenixes down. Space Station Gaming enter the throne room and look to take down Trifecta in 2 games.
Titan already falling 20%, 10%, 0% as Space Station Barra is going to end up finding a last hit onto Sam right before the Titan ends up dying there too.
So what went wrong for Trifecta overall in that game? Like, we're looking at certain moments that may have stood out overall. What went wrong?
I think that for the most part, it was just a case of heavy outdrafting by Space Station. Space Station in that second pit position made sure to... I think that they honestly just threw Trifecta for a loop early on with the Baron Athena pickups.
Causing a lot of problems there, but you guys at home get to vote for MVP for that game. Who do you think deserves it on Space Station Gaming? I think Aquarius made a lot of impact with those taunts.
It's probably got to be Aquarius. I think that he's been playing phenomenal all year long, had a really incredible spring and summer split performance, and now looking to do the same thing here for the 3-peat in fall.
Beautiful performance from Space Station overall, though. They find the 2-0 victory, which coming into this split, a lot of people may have expected over Trifecta, but Trifecta on the up and up. Gets stopped for a second there, though. It's time to get over to F-Dot and Tolly to break down the set.
Thanks a lot there, Hondu. Thanks a lot there, Taco. Thanks a lot there, Adatoli, for sitting next to me. How you doing, bud?
Pretty good. You know, just finished watching that game. Space Station Gaming, dominating game number 2. A little bit back and forth in game number 1, though.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm amped up because I think this was the result that a lot of fans at home expected. Game number 1, I applaud Trifecta, but definitely a little out of character for both of these teams. Space Station Gaming, after their recent struggle earlier in the week, I think a lot of the fans of the black and yellow wanted this kind of dominant performance from their squad, and here they are. Space Station taking almost a 30,000 gold lead above their opposition when the final Titan falls.
A lot of it has to come to the global pressure from Space Station. Aquarius on the Athena, lights out performance. Andenster's Mercury was able to do a little bit more oomph than Sanford Soccer's Ratatasker, and that's what it really came down to. Unfortunately for Trifecta, that dueling of Ganesh and Ram wasn't able to accelerate at the pacing that they would have wanted to. Just Jeff and Barra really controlling that lane.
Yeah, Jeff and Barra have been kind of stepping it up, and Aquarius as well. I mentioned earlier how Andenster was kind of inconsistent, and that was an issue for Space Station. But Andenster's inconsistency can be handled when Aquarius is working on all cylinders. He's going to be your MVP for now. And watching this team throughout the course of the year, I brought it up, there was a land early in the split, or in the season rather, where Aqua kind of stepped up, played an Odin, and he became a hard carry. and then he was kind of the guy for a couple of weeks, but then cooled down. Aquarius Toli is heating up again towards the end of the fall split, and with HRX on the horizon, this can only mean good things for Space Station.
A lot of it has to come to the roster swap a little bit. Trading out Baskin for Venenu maybe has accelerated Aquarius to be more comfortable yet again when he does play the Yodin, when he plays the Achilles and these more aggressive gods to be able to control that laning phase. But it was more about his impact in these team fights versus Scary D's Hercules. We just saw better engagements, the Blink taunts just heavily outweighing what Scary D was going to be bringing to the table.
I'll always bring up what Polar Bear Mike said when he made a roster change. Maybe it was, I forget if it was this Baskin change or maybe a change prior, excuse me. But he said, look, sometimes you make a roster change even when things are working to just shake things up. Players get more engaged, players get more invigorated. And so I mentioned this earlier when we started the talk on the match where, you know, Venenu versus Baskin, sure, in a vacuum, there's probably one better player than the other. But when you look at these teams individually in their own vacuum as 5 players, the addition of Venenu, in my opinion, is a better personal fit for Space Station Gaming, and I think that his acquisition for the team kind of, not to say that Aquarius or anybody was sleeping, but the resurgence of Aquaman and the dual lane as well, I think that's the resurgence, that invigoration that PBM was talking about.
And it reminds me a lot of the European side when Variety had left Obey Alliance and makes his own team back into Season 4. It reminds me with Anister left Cloud9 in Season 2 to go join Sword Gaming in Season 3. It's been a common theme for sure, but at the end of the day, if that doesn't work for you, then you have to start second-guessing a little bit about your own individual identity to fit into the mold of the team. It's not just one team or one player that makes a team. It's about the whole cohesive unit. And I think both for United and Space Station Gaming, it's starting to really synergize.
United right now, the defending world champs. But before we get to break, Space Station Gaming, they've had some troubles. They slipped down to 3rd place. Splice went ahead of them. Only 2 teams get to auto-qualify for Worlds. Toli, it's the end of week 4. Your professional opinion, Space Station Gaming, are they ending the fall split, number 2, number 3, or otherwise?
It's hard to say, honestly. I can't give that answer right now.
That's fair.
I just got to go week by week.
I won't jock you for it. I thought maybe I could I could get one out of you.
Not yet.
Not going to be the case. We still have 2 more weeks to play and 1 more match to play as well. Toli and I are going to jump on the other side. E United versus LG. We'll be back in a moment.